What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have episode 84. And as always, I have with me my boy Andrew, and today we're going to be talking a little bit of that post Browns draft analysis, sort of our thoughts on how everything went, because as we know, it went a lot differently than any mock draft than we could have ever predicted in some ways, and in other ways I think we sort of predicted some guys, or at least some sorts of needs that we had, but it certainly went a different way. And then we will get into a little bit later as well the Cavs obviously sweeping the Heat in a pretty convincing fashion, if I do say so myself. So yeah, Drew, how are we feeling? After between the Browns draft and obviously the Cavs sweep. So that sort of lightens the mood. But Browns draft definitely went a little bit differently than we all expected.
Yeah, it went differently, but I think it was actually the best draft Andrew Berry's had with the Browns so far.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion, like this was definitely his best draft. Um, to trade back to the fifth pick, but getting the haul that he got from Jacksonville was incredible. Getting their first next year, which could be almost a top 10 pick essentially,
Yeah.
and maybe having a middle of the first round pick as well with that. It's incredible for Andrew Berry. Um, and they got the guy they wanted. They got Mason Graham, a guy that could easily slide into that interior defensive line and pair with Myles Garrett to help alleviate that Myles Garrett double teams and triple teams that he always gets, and as another dangerous guy that can get off the line of scrimmage that with speed and get to the quarterback, or help stop the run in the run game. And this was definitely a massive need, and I'm pretty sure that this was a guy that Myles Garrett wanted and wanted them to draft.
Oh yeah. I think when you look at film from last year, you saw a lot of games when Miles couldn't get to the quarterback. A lot of it actually had more to do with the interior linemen and their lack of movement, or honestly, their ability to sort of get in his way. Just not being able to really clear their spots and sort of free up Miles in the way that he needed to be. It even ruined some sacks I even saw at some point. I think bringing in a guy like Mason Graham, it's going to help in the pass rush. We all know what he does there, but he is a mean run stuffer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you brought guys like Tomlinson in a few years ago, we thought he was going to be sort of that guy for us, and he was probably his first year, and then after that, it seemed like it just sort of went downhill from there. And could have been part of due with age, who knows? But the Browns, the last 2 seasons now, have looked to really upgrade the interior part of the D line. So now you have Mike Hall, who hopefully can stay healthy and hopefully have a full season under his belt. And then have Graham, and then you are still going to bring guys back like Alex Wright. Isaiah McGuire ended the year very, very well. You brought in the kid from Tampa. Yeah, Tampa. That linebacker that is going to be more of a DN for
Oh
us.
yeah,
I forget his fucking name.
Joe
Yeah,
Tyron something.
the
I can't remember.
hyphenated fucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a solid pass rusher, good motor. He's gonna probably do a little bit of that, and Sam or Will, but you were able to again block up the interior D line, and then to follow it up, to go out and get the linebacker we did out of UCLA, Schwarzenberger, or however you pronounce his name. Um, I've heard a ton of great things about him. He was a former walk-on. He really only played one legitimate season at UCLA, but he had 90 tackles. Great middle linebacker. He definitely plays in the middle, which I think was, certainly another need, at least at linebacker, that we did need, especially with the whole thing with JOK right now. I think picking him was sort of a nod of you. We may not see Jock at all this season. We don't know. Like, we honestly don't even know if he is going to be able to play ever again. I mean, we saw him come in to the workouts this past weekend, or last week, but you still don't know about contact. about any sort of, major things that he can do besides what he's been so far cleared to do. So you take him, you obviously take Judkins, who is a fantastic running back for not only Ohio State, but also Ole Miss when he was there. I mean, the only other person that was able to put up the type of numbers that he did as a freshman was Adrian Peterson in college.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. All right. Judkins, I know there were some people that wanted Henderson above him. I also liked Caleb Johnson. Obviously, Hampton was great, but he went in the first round to Chargers. So to still get a top 5 running back, no matter where you take him, it's not a bad pick. If you feel like it's a reach, quote unquote, so be it. I thought it was an outstanding move, and then to even double up and get Dylan, Sampson, who was the SEC running back of the year this past year, very talented, a little bit smaller, but a little bit shiftier, can sort of play the role I think you wanted more of Ford to play. That's going to be a very interesting dynamic too, is to see, is it going to be Ford that's going to stay, or are they going to re-sign Chubb and try to sort of have a 3-back unit, and not really have the load go on, Chubb? That could be interesting. And then you get Fannin. Man, Fannin was my favorite tight end. The minute that we drafted him, I was like, "Hey, yo, guys," because I was with my boys on Friday, and I was like, "Dog, I'm fucking pumped for him." He's like, "Dude, I don't even know him. He's from Bowling Green." I'm like, "Dog, look at his numbers. His numbers were 110 catches, I think. Actually, it might have been more, over 110, for 1,555 yards receiving, and I think he had 10 touchdowns. So actually, I think he had like 117 catches or something like that. It was something nuts. All I know is it was over 100. He led the FBS in tight ends, and yards, and your receptions. The point is, he's going to be another Njoku, literally like almost identical in the terms of their play, the athleticism, the ways that you can sort of space them out 5 wide, or you can have them go 22 per personnel and run down the gullet. You do that fine. But then we get to the most interesting part of this draft. The 2 remaining guys that we decided to take were quarterbacks. Now, to start off, we took Dylan Gabriel, Oregon guy, at, what was it, 94 or 96, or whatever it was that we took him. It was in the 90s. Took him in the 3rd round. But the biggest story of the entire NFL draft, obviously, besides the Browns trading away the pick and gaining value for not only this year, but next year, you also have guys like Shedeur Sanders fall, and he falls, and he falls, and he falls. And eventually at 144, the Browns decided to trade up from I think we had 166 or 169 or something like that. And we traded another pick that we had later on away to move up, and we grabbed Shedeur Sanders. So the Cleveland Browns did, in fact, come up with Shedeur Sanders, along with Dylan Gabriel. Now, Andrew, I definitely want your thoughts on this, because you didn't necessarily freak out as much as I did when we took Gabriel. I'm not gonna lie, I was at first I was pretty pissed. I was like, this guy could have potentially gone undrafted the way that this draft fell for some quarterbacks. I mean, Quinn Ewers almost didn't get drafted. There was a time at this point last year where we're like, dog, Quinn Ewers could be, a top 10 pick. Motherfucker could have stayed 1 more year in college and would have made more money in college than he is going to make right now. He's going to make under $1 million a year now. So the point is, the draft fell a certain way. And I do get moving up for Shedeur, more so for the value sake. I mean, he was a projected 1st-round pick, and you got him in the 5th. That is astronomical in terms of the value that you have. No matter what way you see it, no matter if you like Shedeur as a quarterback or not, that value is insane. It is insane, and that's what can make this an A+ draft, or at the very minimum a B+ draft, which is what I gave them, because I didn't love the Gabriel move. But you have 2 competent quarterbacks, 2 smart quarterbacks, I think, that are both very talented in their own ways. The only real downside to Gabriel is his height.
Mhm.
So, with that said, with all of everything, because I sort of dumped pretty much everything that the Browns did in the draft. So, Drew, give me your thoughts, unload, because again, I've sort of said my piece, but it was an interesting draft, but not a bad draft by AB, as you said. It wasn't a bad draft.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad draft. I know you gave was an a B for the draft. I gave him more of like a B plus, close to an A minus, just for the fact that yeah, I didn't really freak out too much over the Gabriel pick because I think what they see in Gabriel is a kid who has a little bit of experience. Obviously, he played what 5 years in college, I
Yeah.
believe. So he has good experience. Um, led the NCAA in what was it, passing yards or something, and touchdowns and like completion percentage and stuff like that. Like he
Right.
led the league in a bunch of different, or the NCAA in a lot of different stuff. Um, what we know about him, he's an accurate quarterback. He's not afraid to throw that ball deep and be accurate with throwing the ball deep. They almost saw like what the Seahawks saw basically in Russell Wilson back in like 2011, 2012
Yeah.
or whatever. They basically saw that in Gabriel, but left-handed.
Yeah.
And you could kind of see when you watch his highlights, you could kind of see the resemblance of the Russell Wilson comparisons or whatever. But I also think too is that they felt like I feel like the Browns knew that the way the draft was going, that Shador was going to fall, and that they could get the guys that they wanted and then nab them with their final pick.
Yeah.
And said, listen, we don't have to reach to get this guy because essentially we got two guys in the third and fifth round who we don't have to pay too much, and we can let them duke it out and see, hey, we drafted two guys, which one's better, which one's worse. Um, because what if Shador becomes a bust and it's not as what everyone expected him to be? But Dylan Gabriel somehow is like that one guy, like your Brock Purdy's or your Tom Brady's,
Yeah.
that just rises up and is like, oh, by the way, I'm really good. And it's like, do you really want to miss out on that? Not really. And sometimes you have to take those gambles and take those chances. And the
Yeah.
Browns took a chance on Gabriel saying, listen, I think a lot of teams actually had Gabriel higher than what Mel Kiper and all
Yeah.
these other draft analysts had. I think he was rated high because it's not just the interview process is either. It's the film, and it could be because obviously too they get asked questions in the draft, at the draft, or not at the draft, but the combine. They get asked questions about like, all right, here's a play. I want you to draw it out, and I want you to explain what goes on in this play. And maybe Gabriel was one of the best at doing that. So he might have had a very high football IQ. He might have had things that we don't get to see or hear about at
Right.
all. So he might have done insanely well in those. And the Browns were intrigued by that, saying, listen, this guy's intelligent, high football IQ, knows plays like the back of his hand. He knows how to run an efficient offense. He's accurate. He can throw it deep. He can run out of the pocket if he needs to. He can do everything. Meanwhile, Cam Ward made fun of Shador when they were training together that he was just a dink and dunk quarterback. And, and obviously Tom Brady made his career being a dink and dunk quarterback. But it's one of those things where there was a lot of hype around Shador. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick. He had a lot of hype because his dad is Deion Sanders. He had a lot of hype from the media. Obviously, he had a lot of hype from Mel Kiper and all those people, Todd McShay. But that doesn't necessarily translate to on the field. Because look at where Shador played compared to where Dylan Gabriel played. Shador played for Jacksonville State, a very low-end D1 college,
Yeah.
and played for Colorado, who plays in the Big 12 but doesn't really play big-time opponents, except for maybe a few Big 12 schools that they lost to. So besides Colorado State was the only one that they were able to beat. So it tells me like Gabriel was the number one, played for the number one team in all of college football last year.
Yeah.
Decimated Big Ten teams, decimated big time opponents, and he did that wherever he went. That was Dylan Gabriel's game, was that he could beat anybody. Shedeur Sanders almost lost to North Dakota State, an FCS school. He got rocked by BYU in the biggest game of his career.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's led the NCAA accuracy, but there's also looming questions. Can the accuracy translate to the NFL? Can he make those faster decisions? Because obviously the cons were he's like a Deshaun Watson where he sits in the pocket for too long and eats a lot of sacks. Whereas Gabriel doesn't do that. He quickly makes a decision and escapes, or he makes a good check down throw or throws the ball out of bounds, makes a smarter decision.
Right.
Doesn't eat the sacks. So they're willing to take a gamble on both. I think a lot of teams viewed Gabriel higher than they viewed Shedeur. I think they viewed Gabriel higher than they probably did your Will Howards and your other guys, your Quinn Ewers. I know there was rumors that Shedeur tanked in interviews on purpose, potentially, because there seems he didn't want to get drafted by, so he tanked those interviews. But this is the NFL. It's a totally different ball game. Shedeur could have all this hype and be a nobody.
Right.
Gabriel can be a third-round pick and be one of the best third-round picks we've ever seen. We won't know until we get to the nit-grit of the season and these guys are able to have some kind of chance. Obviously, we'll see in training camp who wins that second spot because I'm sure Joe Flacco is going to win that starting QB spot.
Right.
I know a lot of people have him for some reason being the one that gets dumped, which is kind of weird to me. I don't think you pay him $2 million to be here and just dump him for no reason. So I think Joe Flacco starts, and you're basically having those two rookies battle out for 2 and 3. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who becomes a 2 and 3 in those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the cool thing is with the way that everything is sort of structured right now, and where Shedeur fell or how he fell, it does take a lot of pressure off him to start immediately. Because as a 5th round pick, you're like, oh, well, we're not going to throw him out there anytime soon. Even Dylan Gabriel as a 3rd round pick should not be thrown out there. And that's why the only way that you don't start Flacco, or if you really do decide to keep Kenny, I mean, I'd see them keeping Flacco over Pickett and at least trying to trade him or dump him or whatever. But he's not going to be the one that's going to make the roster, and he's certainly not going to be sort of the backup. There's just no way. Which does create a little bit of discourse in the locker room potentially. But again, if you keep Flacco, I think you sort of keep the veterans at least at a minimum, and you at least keep them at bay and say, okay, we at least have a guy that we know that can come through, even though he's 40 years old. But you do really wonder how it's going to work out. Personally, I think what's going to end up happening is Gabriel is eventually just going to be QB2, unless Sanders absolutely outworks him, which is certainly possible.
Yeah,
do not get me wrong, but Gabriel does have a lot of experience. I think he has the most starts out of any quarterback that's been drafted, besides Bo Nix. I mean, he's up there with that type of numbers because he's been in college football for a really long time. It's like, Tyler Shaw, like, even though he didn't play as much because he had so many injuries, he's been in college since like 2017 or 2018. So he's been around for a minute. Yeah, so he's been around for a minute. And if anybody wants to say that anybody reached for any sort of QBs, the worst ones were Jackson Dart at 25. The Giants literally traded up to get him. Like, that wild to me when he would have fell to them in the first, more than likely. And then who else was it that went? I think Milroe was a little bit of a reach, but not too bad. But yeah, Shaw was at like 60, I think.
Yeah, and Shuck was at 60.
Yeah, to the Saints. So
Mhm.
It was just a very weird draft the way that the quarterbacks fell. But again, this is the NFL draft, man. Like this is how this shit goes at times. Like you cannot predict where certain guys go. You can sort of predict where certain positions will go, but you don't know necessarily like outside of the top like 2 or 3 picks, you really don't know until it happens.
Mhm.
And it was certainly a more exciting draft. And again, as you said, I do agree. I think this is one of AB's better drafts in terms of the quality guys that we did get.
Mhm.
We definitely did address some things that we needed to get. Really wish we would have gotten for some sort of receiver.
Yeah.
And I really wish we would have at least tried to get some sort of O line, which I know we picked up after the draft, and we did a safety as well. But you had opportunity to get some quality guys that really fell down some draft boards, and instead you go with like I said, they're going Gabriel in the third. You could have probably gotten a top safety or even a wide receiver still, and had some great production.
Mhm.
And then Gabriel probably still would have fell to you at 144 or wherever if you didn't want to go get Shadur. Now, even if you wanted to get Shadur with the way the draft fell, again, you get insane value. You get rid of those back end picks that you don't really care about because from what I was told is the Browns just did not like the bottom part of the draft. So they just said, fuck the last 2 rounds pretty much. We don't need them. And that's why they did what they did because they didn't really see a lot of value. So um, again, the guys that they got are going to be quality guys, and they are going to make a difference pretty much day one. And I would say, especially our first 3 or 4 guys that we picked, I think Fannon's going to have an interesting career here. He may not blow up year one, but in the event that you do have to move on from Chief, I mean,
A great
Fannon's going to be a
replacement.
dog.
Yeah.
He's going to be a lot of fun. And especially for this year, he's going to be a lot of fun because it gives you a legitimate tight end two to throw to. My God, we have been missing out on a real tight end two since Harrison. And,
Yeah.
even Bryant, like, it wasn't like he was super, super crazy, but he was somewhat productive. He was good in the red zone. He
Mhm.
could block a little bit, even though he was slightly undersized. And I guess Fannin, you could say, is technically undersized, but he's still 6'3". He could fit out in the slot. You could throw him outside and have him jug you inside or flip flop. You could do whatever you want with that. And I think
Mhm.
having that flexibility at tight end is going to be where Stefanski is going to have the most fun. I think Stefanski really does well when he has 2 quality tight ends to
Mhm.
be able to implement in the game plan at all times. And then now you obviously have running back by committee, which is kind of for the next point that I want to talk about. Obviously, you went Judkins and then you go Dylan Sampson, 2 great
Yeah.
picks. I would say Sampson is more of the sneakier pick and a lot better quality, but Judkins is going to be like our next Kareem Hunt, but honestly better, in my opinion, because he's a lot quicker. But to me, this doesn't necessarily spell the end of Chubb here, although it could, because there is some rumor that he may go to a NFC North team, not AFC North team, but an NFC North team. But this could very well be the end of Ford with how lackluster of his production has been over the last years. What do you think is going to ultimately happen there versus sort of the hope? Because we all hope that Chubb comes back, but reality, what do you really think is going to go down?
I mean, reality, I'm sure they could bring him back. It's just if the money's right, obviously. That's the entire situation, I'm sure, is that if the money's right, they would probably be willing to bring him back. I think they're just unsure. Obviously, no matter how many videos we see of him on Twitter over the last couple of days, squatting 600 pounds again like he used to and jumping over massive hurdles. Um, I think there was a reason why you drafted 2 backs. And I think you did that just for in case of we might not get Chubb back, but also too it could be telling that it could be like, hey, Jerome Ford, your time is gone.
Right.
We're gonna bring Nick Chubb back and have these 2 rookies. You're done because we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
You weren't productive when we need you to be productive. You weren't the player that we thought you were going to be. So with that, we're going to go re-sign Nick Chubb, maybe give him a one-off and see if he can be productive. And, we have Quishon and Samson in the back waiting to take their opportunities.
Right.
So I think you can easily bring Chubb back on a 1 year just to see what he has left and be like, hey, listen, if you got it, man, we'll resign you to a longer deal again and we'll make sure you're a Brown for life.
Right.
And we'll let Judkins and Samson just continue to run behind you. But if you've lost a step, we're going to have to let you go and let these two kids go crazy. So realistically, I think they can bring him back on a cheap 1 year and just see what he's got left in the tank. But it's ultimately up to Stefanski because we all heard from Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has already said that he wants to stay.
Right.
It's just up to Barry and the front office to make that decision and Stefanski if he wants to keep him. And I'm sure Stefanski would love to have him back, but it's just one of those things where we probably won't know until the next month or two?
At least.
Yeah. So because that's when OTAs and everything starts and you get at least rookie minicamp in the next month. So
I mean, I think it's coming up in the next week or two, actually. I think it's really, really soon. It should be sometime in May.
Yeah, let me take a look. Rookie minicamp, 25 days. Yeah. Teams can hold their rookie minicamps either the first weekend or the second weekend of May after the draft.
Right.
So it's either going to be May 2nd through the 4th, 3rd through the 5th, or 9th through the 11th. So, and then OTAs is right after in June.
Right.
The Browns rookie minicamp will be May 9th through the 11th. And then their OTA offseason workouts are the May 27th, 28th, May 30th, June 3rd through 4th, June 6th, June 16th through 19th, and then their mandatory minicamp is June 10th through the 12th.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, with that logic, we're going to come up here soon, which obviously is why you're starting to see guys like Shedeur already in Cleveland doing stuff. He's training.
Yeah.
He just visited a high school, which apparently he does quite often. He apparently will go to one just random school a week and just give them pizza and talk to them and do cool stuff with them. He does that a lot. So everybody that's he's trying to no, he's just trying to establish himself in the community, but he's been doing it in his own community for quite some time if you actually do some research. But I think the most troublesome part again about the Shedeur stuff is everybody trying to have this sort of comparison with him and Manziel, and it's I think those comparisons are so far off it's not even funny because Manziel was a first-round pick. Shedeur was a fifth-round pick. Now, obviously, there is a lot of that glam and all that hype really around him because he is a Sander. And, of course, he's going to have to live up to the last name, just like Bronny has to live up to the James last name and how, his little brother is going to have to do the same thing. But, it's a little unfair to put all that on, on there. But you don't see Shedeur going out and partying. You don't see him going out and making a fool of himself on a day-to-day basis. You hear that he's a great kid. He's got a great head on his shoulders. Sure. Could he become, or is he a little bit cocky? Yeah, I'm sure he is. Fuck it. I think you want your quarterback to have some fucking confidence. You don't want a Cody Kessler, and that's what guys like Dylan Gabriel could wind up being. It's just another Cody Kessler. You don't know how these guys are going to pan out. So yeah, you do have to have a little bit of, optimism about what's going to go on, despite if you necessarily agree with where it happened. Like myself, I didn't fully agree with Gabriel, but I get it. And that really opens up the quarterback room and it opens up competition for this year alone. So don't be surprised if the Browns get at least voted to be on Hard Knocks this year. I'm just saying, with the way the quarterback room fell, do not be surprised if that becomes a reality. And
Yeah.
you'll sort of get to see an inside look on how some of this stuff works, and it's going to be interesting. And that's why when I posted on TikTok, I was like, at least the Browns aren't boring. Like they are not a boring team. They go out and they do some things that some people would not agree with and some people absolutely love. And that's the reality of this league. And that's really the reality of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, we both know as fans, but as people that aren't fans, they get to see like, man, what the fuck are they doing over there? Just let them cook and see what happens. See if it's good or not. And if it's not, they'll be like, fuck it, we'll throw it away. Because again, when you take a quarterback in the third and fifth round, you're not guaranteed really that quarterback beyond a year or two anyway. You're not guaranteeing yourself where if you take a guy in the first round, they have that fifth-year option, which is why when New York comes around with Dart, they're going to have to worry about that fifth-year option for Dart.
Mm-hmm.
Or even Cam Ward. Dude, Cam Ward is getting Warren Moon's number. If he flops in Tennessee, those fans are going to erupt. If he flops. Do I think he is going to flop? No. But I don't think he's going to be this super crazy elite guy this year. He's going to struggle.
It's like whatever.
He has a lot of holes still.
It's like what everyone thought, and the Colts fans thought Anthony Richardson was going to be. They thought Anthony Richardson was going to be this like elite level talent, and then next thing you know, he flopped in his rookie year, then got injured, and is continuing to flop. And it's like that could easily just happen to someone like Cam Ward, where he gets all this hype around him, and it's like, yeah, and you're just a massive flop. And again, Jackson Dart too, going to New York, which is already a loaded QB room as is already. So it's going to be hard to break through that because you have to fight Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson.
Well, and at least they sort of protect him because they know he's young enough. So you give him a year to sort of be off. But okay, let's say the Giants have another shit year. They have like a 4 or 5 win season max. If that coaching staff isn't there, then Dart's going to have another staff to relearn his system, relearn everything. He is literally bound to fail. Because they just have not secured their jobs over there in New York. Mm-hmm. They have not. So
that's probably the worst situation he could have gone to.
It's the worst. Because
he would have been better off in New Orleans.
Right. Because at least with a guy like Carter, like it's a position where the stuff you're learning isn't as difficult to learn and understand, especially at the DN position, because it's like besides dropping back in coverage here and there, which he can do. I mean, Abdul Carter did play linebacker at Penn State as well, but he's going to rush the quarterback 9 times out of 10. In fact, 9.5 times out of 10, really. So all you're really learning is stunts.
Yeah,
it's at the end. I mean, as a quarterback, you're learning it's too much shit.
Yeah,
too much shit, and it's going to be a lot for Dart to learn as a young, quarterback that was in a system that babied him. I mean, it was well documented that that offense at Ole Miss, it's catered to really keep it simple, and it's going to bite these guys, in the ass. So we'll see how it pans out, but it was certainly a risky move to trade back up and lose value in the draft in order to get him.
Well, and I think that's why the Browns drafted someone like Dylan Gabriel, because it seems like Dylan Gabriel can function in high quality, high functioning offenses, and that his IQ is unlike the others because, like you said, in places, and I'm sure it happened to Will Howard too at Ohio State, as much as I love Will Howard, it happened to probably a lot of these quarterbacks that got drafted, especially Cam Ward, where these guys had very specific offenses designed to keep it easy and simple for them to learn. And that's probably why a lot of these guys fell hard in the draft, and that's why a lot of these guys weren't rated enough to begin with. But I think the Browns, again, like I said, they probably saw something in Gabriel where they're like, his IQ is unlike the other QBs we've interviewed, and that he can handle high complexity plays. Like, he probably had Stefanski reading him a paragraph play, and he read it back to him perfectly, drew it up on the board, drew how it was going to go down, drew all the possible scenarios of the play.
Right.
That's probably the difference between the guys like Gabriel, maybe Shador, because again, Shador was more likely catered a lot at Colorado because of his dad. So I think that's why a lot of people underestimated Gabriel. And by the way, I did look. He was in college since 2019. He played 3 seasons at UCF, then played 2 seasons at Oklahoma, and then 1 season at Oregon, obviously.
Okay.
So already better teams than what Shador Sanders has played on in better divisions. UCF is probably more comparable to Colorado, but obviously he started at Oklahoma for 2 seasons and then Oregon, which are high quality college football programs.
Right.
So, but it's not a knock on Shador because, again, Shador could easily win the job by just sheer work ethic and learning. So there's so many possibilities, but like you said, man, with this draft and what the Browns have done, they were able to get some quality players. Again, we're all so excited about Fannin Jr. We're excited about Judkins and the quarterbacks. I'm excited to see Mason Graham and that interior defensive line tearing things up with Myles Garrett. And that Carson Schlesinger kid, I think he's very underrated.
Very.
Because that kid can move. And have you seen his highlights? That kid's a spy on defense. He's picking.
He's insane. He's got a motor on him too.
Yeah, and he's got a motor on him too. And it's like it's like playing Madden. You always like pick up the linebacker and you just spy on the quarterback and just pick off the other guy with your linebacker every single time. That's like Carson Schlesinger in real life. Like someone's just controlled him and he's like a spy linebacker and you just put him back and he's like up pick. And it's freaking crazy. Like this kid's insane. So he's definitely going to be an underrated one that I'm more excited to see on the field because that kid's going to fly all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear his name a lot in those tackle situations. You're going to hear a lot of Schlesinger in the tackle.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of vets at the middle linebacker role. And so to have a younger guy again is going to be fun. And, and again, especially without, sort of knowing what's going on with JOK, it does make sense. I'm not going to be surprised if we do it again next year. But, you still have, some vets. You have Jerome Baker, who just signed. I think we still have Hicks as well. So, like, you still have quality vets and you still have quality guys that are going to rotate in.
Joe Tyron Shoyinga is his last name.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. From Tampa Bay, who's also listed as a linebacker.
And even Diabate. I mean, he's a big bodied guy. I mean, if he can put on just a little bit more weight, I think Diabate will be a fun guy to have on that defense because he really started to sort of hone in that last month or so of the season. So again, you're still giving guys the ability to sort of show their roles and really make some plays. But again, I think having to miss out on safety really sucked. But regardless, I think we had a pretty good draft. Me personally, I think I give us a B+ on the draft just because double dipping on quarterback is a risk. And you don't know how it's going to pan out, but it is a bold move, and it's just going to depend on how it works out. So what was your grade on the draft before we get into Cavs talk real quick?
I was going to give him a B+ as well. I think this was Andrew Berry's best draft that he's had so far at Cleveland.
Definitely.
And he actually finally had a first-round pick to use. And he managed to make it into a good pick and then 2 first round or another first rounder next year. So
it was a safe pick. I mean, Graham was a safe pick. I mean, he's a top 3 guy realistically in the draft. He was right behind Travis Hunter, and even Abdul Carter. He was
Yeah.
very well 3 on a lot of guys' boards. So the fact that the draft fell how it did, we got one of the best guys at 5. So you can't argue that. Sure, it wasn't the sexy pick like Travis would have been, but
and to be honest, it was either him or Will Campbell. If Will Campbell didn't get drafted forward to New England, so it was either we were going to get our tackle or we are going to get a partner for Myles Garrett.
Yeah. So I mean, good draft. I don't think it was bad, and I think it's a good one to really build on. And it is going to be hilarious too. By the way, there are 2 interior tackles now. Are both Ohio State and Michigan guys. So that'll be
crazy.
That'll be a fun dynamic. we'll certainly see the fun bantering going on there. And even more so with DeJuan Jones. You have Judkins. You have Hickman as well, Ward. All of these guys were all Ohio State guys. So it's going to be some fun bantering for sure.
Yeah, no, now it would really be fun if we had the Hard Knocks because half the Browns now is either half Ohio State and half Michigan. So it's like half split between those 2 teams.
It's fucking hilarious. It's the only team I think that has some more Ohio State players is fucking Cardinals. I don't know. They have like 6 or 7 Ohio State guys. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. But I do want to move on to the Cavs real quick. Obviously, I know there wasn't a whole lot to really discuss because this series, at the beginning, I said Cavs in 5, and that was strictly out of respect for the Heat.
Yeah.
And the Cavs just didn't give a fuck. if I'm real, the Cavs didn't give a shit. I mean, after game 1, it was like, all right, it was a close game. It could be a good series. And then game 2, it's like, okay, we beat them. A little bit better now. It's a little bit easier. Garland goes down with his little sprains, big toe, which is kind of sucks. But he sits out game 3 and 4, and we beat the Heat by like 30 and 50 something points. I mean, we beat them by 55 the other night. I mean, I think our win margin total in this series was the largest in NBA history terms of playoff series. We had like 100. It was like a difference of 121 or 122 points.
It's 122 difference, and then the next series below us was like 105 or something.
Right, and remind you, OKC beat the Grizzlies game 1 by like was it like 61 I think or 59. And it was the largest victory in NBA history in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then after that, the Grizzlies actually started giving them a fight before Ja got hurt. And even with Ja got hurt, they were still keeping themselves in the game. And, even though they got swept, it wasn't like a
bad sweep.
It wasn't a clean sweep. The Cavs, granted, the Heat were probably the worst playoff team to ever come in to the playoffs. I would now say, after that terrible performance, the Cavs put that beat down. And game 3 really was like that. Okay, like I think we're good. After you go up 3-0, you really do just want to shut them up and just don't give them any life. And they came out, and I don't know how you feel about this, but it really seemed like the Heat had already kind of thrown the white flag almost immediately in that game. I mean, you start the first quarter 32-8.
I think they just I think after or like sometime in the middle of like game 3 they kind of tossed the white flag because they just looked defeated.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like in game 4 they just really just didn't care. They're just like bodies out there. They just showed up and said, fuck it, we have to play this game, so we're just gonna show up and play and get the hell out of here. Because they were like, you could see the faces of like Bam and Tyler Hero, and they just looked absolutely just like, I don't want to be here right now. Like, we already know we're going to get our asses swept, so why am I even here? Like, they're just chucking up random shots, and just like, let's just get this game over, man.
Exactly.
We're going to, because like you said, we started out game 1, we won by 21, but it was a close 21. Then we beat them by 10, and then we beat them by 35, or 39, and then we beat them by 55. So it got progressively worse as
it did. It did, and really, again, after game 3, I think they were really, really defeated because immediately the first possession, Miami wins the tip. They come down, and immediately Ja gets a steal, dunk, 2-0, and you're like, all right, shit, let's go. And then immediately Donovan's throwing up threes, draining them. He's like, all right, we're hitting shots. And Donovan is still playing defense like it's game fucking 7.
Yeah.
Like he realistically probably didn't even have to play more than 25 minutes that game in order for us to win because it was done by halftime. That game was done really by the end of the first quarter, but by halftime, we were up, I think, in the second quarter at one point, like it was like 70 to like 25. We had more 3-pointers at one point. We had more 3-point makes than the Heat had total field goal makes. Tyler Hero had a 3 at the very beginning of the game. It only ended the game with 4 points, which means he scored one more point in the remaining like 37 minutes that he played.
Yeah.
Like Bam was the only sort of consistent guy for the Heat. And he really still didn't do that much in games 3 and 4. The Cavs really are a scary team when they are on, and they're not always going to be on in terms of their 3-point makes, but that's when you have guys like Donovan going to the rack aggressively. Hunter has gotten significantly more aggressive, in my opinion. Allen looks like a different playoff Allen that I've ever seen. I mean, I haven't seen him really be this aggressive in this sort of tone setting that he is right now. And Mobley is just continuing to do what he's done. I mean, he was recently chosen as the defensive player of the year, which obviously is more than good. I'm really happy that they ended up doing that.
He had 2 blocks, 1 steal the other night.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Allen had 6 steals in game 4.
Yeah, he had 6 steals in game 4.
He almost had a triple-double technically. I mean, this team, it's just different guys step up. Game 1, it was the Ty Jerome show. And then game 2, it was like Hunter, Donovan, and Mobley. And then game 3, it was Mobley and Hunter and Jerome a little bit. Donovan only had like 13. And then game 4, it was kind of a mix of everybody.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, game 4, Mobley had 17, Allen had 14, Don had 22, Hunter had 19, Jerome had 19.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you what. I mean, we've already said this once, well, more than once now. But the trade for DeAndre fucking Hunter
made a massive difference.
Is immensely more valuable, at least now, than the Doncic trade at this point. Because the Lakers are getting ready to get beat by Minnesota. Like they will probably lose.
Yeah, that's tonight.
Yeah, they will probably lose. And if they lose, I mean, don't you think LeBron's got to consider retirement at this point? Because it's like, I mean, what else are you gonna do? They have no bench. The Lakers have no bench. It is the starting 5 and then one more dude off the bench.
I think he tries to jump to one last team for one more opportunity. Maybe. For like one last opportunity to win one more title. Whoever that team is, I don't know. I would say it might be a young team that's good now. Like it could be like,
I mean, it doesn't really make sense for him to go really like anywhere else though, because you wouldn't see him go to the Cavs because the Cavs aren't going to give shit up for a 41-year-old LeBron. That's just not happening.
Especially if we make a massive run this year too.
I mean, I guess you could see if the Heat want him, but it's not going to change what the Heat are. I mean, I've been hearing people say, and I actually agree with this a whole lot, Miami Heat are just the NBA Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Mediocrity at its best. A great coach that always gets them in the playoffs or always has them with a sort of winning record. They're always relevant, but they're not really exceeding a lot of expectation. Now, they have made 2 NBA finals since LeBron has left. They haven't won them. They haven't really been close to winning them.
And they lost to LeBron in one of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, and one of them was in the bubble, losing to LeBron in his first season at the Lakers.
Yeah, second year with the Lakers.
So I get it, but back to the Cavs though, because Miami Heat's irrelevant now. They got that ass beat. Now we move on to Indiana. The Pacers just took care of business against the Bucks, which really wasn't too much of a competition, especially after Dame went down in Game 4. really sort of, I think, made the Bucks wave the white flag, but they went down at the very end, and really the Bucks choked Game 5. I mean, they
Yeah.
should have won that game and they didn't. But you're seeing some holes in the Pacers, and they are a great team. Like I'm not gonna discredit the Pacers at all. They're a fun, young, good team. Like they're well coached, they're well put together. They have a deeper roster than even Miami did, but they struggled still against the Bucks.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time believing that the Cavs won't give them the business too. And I personally think it's going to go 6 games just because, again, I do respect the Pacers and I don't want to come off as too cocky. But I can see the Cavs winning in 5 as well here, because the Pacers, as good as they are just not as consistent on the defensive end as they are on the offensive end. They can score, but if you shut down, 1 or 2 guys on that team, there's really no one else that's going to really, really, really kill you. The only guys that are really going to give us a lot of trouble, and he does every single fucking time, is that McCollum kid, or whatever the fuck his name is, that white kid. He's been around forever. He's going to be a dog. Obviously, Siakam's good. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton is, I would say, one of the better point guards in the league, at least top 5. He really does make a difference, but he's not a great shooter. He's just 6'5" as a point guard. I don't think it matters. I think we outmatch up them in every way. And a lot of the Pacers fans are like, oh, we won the season series 3-1. And I was like, well, the last 2 games were in the last 3 games of the season where you were playing G Leaguers. And then one of the games that we had, you didn't have Tyrese. And then one of the games, I think we played with them also. We also didn't have our full guys as well. Like we were down, I think, the Okoro and sort of the Dean Wade, I think was around that time. So the point is neither team played each other at full capacity. Even without Garland, we're beating that ass. That's there's nothing else to it.
It's funny because I think it was Ryan Anderson from the Miami Heat, after they got swept, said that the Cavs look better without Garland. Yeah. And he goes, "That's no dig at Garland, but they look better without him, like stronger and faster." And no, I'm gonna give them the respect too. The Pacers, I'm gonna give them give them 2 games at home as well.
Yeah,
and I will say we will win this in 6. Just so I don't come off as cocky and arrogant. I think it could be 5, but I'm gonna go 6 just in case. But no, like you said, the times that we played them, nobody was full strength. And the 2 times at the end of the season, they were pretty much full strength with Tyrese and all them in, and no, that was like the 108-106 game that we played them. But we were starting Jerome, like Jerome Hunter, Merrill, Okoro, and Dean Wade or whatever. And we lost by like 3.
Right.
And I was like, they're basically their starting 5 almost lost to our bench. That's crazy. That's how good our bench is when you almost lose to our bench with your starting 5. That gives me confidence knowing that it could either be a series that goes to 6, or it's going to be another season where it's belt to ass and we just beat the crap out of them and they don't know what the hell hit them.
Right.
And that's the way I see it. I don't think there's going to be an in-between in reality. It's either going to be 6 games or it could be a sweep again. Yeah. Like that's just realistic. I think it's going to be 6 games just because it's the playoffs and the playoffs are always tough. But we don't know. We thought it was going to be 5 games with the Miami, and they got destroyed. they got demolished. It was belt to ass.
Yeah, it was truly belt to ass.
And it could be the same way if the Pacers aren't careful. And that's the thing. Like, as long as the Cavs continue this momentum, I mean, look at how we started the season.
Yeah,
it was belt to ass to any team we faced. And it didn't matter who was on that team. It didn't matter who it was. You lost.
Yeah.
And the Cavs come in, and yeah, the Pacers broke up. The second time we went on a 12-game win streak, the Pacers broke it up. But again, we were missing a few guys in that moment. So for the Pacers, yeah, it's gonna be a better series in my opinion. But people need to be on alert of this Cavs team that it seems like in this postseason. Because remember when we said that Kenny was working on some stuff potentially over the last couple of weeks before the playoffs or whatever? I saw a lot of different things that I didn't see in the regular during the season. Like a lot of different combinations, a lot of things I didn't like. You're like having Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter with Mobley and Sam Merrill or something. I'm like, what the hell is this combination? And it worked.
Right.
It worked for some reason. And it's the same thing like you had Garland out there with Ja and Dean Wade or whatever and this and that, and it worked. I was like, what the hell is he doing? What are these combinations? And they're working. And they're not losing momentum when they do it. So for me, it's almost one of those things where it doesn't matter what Kenny Atkinson does, it's just going to work. And this is a team where the Celtics should be a little scared if they were to face us in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Because this ain't the same regular season team that you saw. This is a whole different Cavs team now.
Right.
So, and remember the one time we played them with DeAndre Hunter, because we only played one game with DeAndre Hunter with them, we won that game.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying DeAndre Hunter has been a diamond in the rough for the Cavs.
Absolutely.
So I tell you what.
I mean, I would say Ty Jerome has been more of a diamond in the rough than anything else. But yeah, I mean,
he has it too.
It's wild. It's really wild to see how much of a difference this Cavs team can be when the coaching staff is the one that gets changed. Kenny has been able to just really open things up. And he's also making moves along the way. Like when you look at the way the Cavs, rotation started in this series where they were playing Okoro more. Mm-hmm. The last the last two games, they played Dean Wade way more. They played Sam Merrill way more. Like Okoro didn't get as many minutes until we started blowing shit out, and then it was like, okay, at this point it doesn't matter. But like when you're able to change your matchups productively and it makes a difference, I'm telling you, like that's where I think fans are seeing the biggest difference between him and JB, where JB just could not. I mean, could not ever get it right. And that's why this Cavs team is truly successful. On top of, I think he also just adds a ton of confidence to this Cavs team that I don't think anybody else would have been able to get out of them. So that's a beautiful thing. And also, shout out to Kyle Anderson. Dude, your hairline is like the worst hairline I've ever seen too. So I don't know why the hell he's talking mad smack about I don't mean to sound weird or anything, but they were certainly playing better with Ty Jerome. I was like, well, we were starting with Sam Merrill, and Sam Merrill was cooking your ass the whole fucking series. Like,
he was draining.
Sam Merrill was locking everybody up too. His defense, the entire series was incredible. Sam Merrill is becoming an all-around great rotational player for us. Like he is an eighth guy off the bench that is productive when everybody is healthy.
The best thing I heard is Sam Merrill's becoming a oh god, what was his name from Matthew Dellavedova, but that could shoot.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, he really is. He is becoming a true fan favorite, which I mean, you
always
and I
has been.
I mean, yeah, I was about to say you and I loved him since last year. We knew he was a certified bucket, but again, it's just good to see Kenny giving those guys a chance where JB didn't, and it's making the difference. You're seeing guys like him and Ty Jerome make the true difference, and it makes this team deeper, and it opens up so many possibilities, so many different pieces of the rotation to use. It's beautiful, man. And
Mhm.
all of that questioning of, hey, why aren't you starting, Hunter and keeping Strusen? Honestly, it seems like it's starting to benefit having Tydrome and Hunter play together because they have the continuity, but B, it gives you another load on offense to really produce, where Strus is still shooting the ball phenomenally. And I think putting him in the starting role is freeing him up to get buckets anytime he wants, but
Mhm.
also being able to still facilitate the way that he does. I mean, he'll get 4 or 5 assists in the game and be totally fine, and he'll, rebound a little better.
Mhm.
And to be honest, the Cavs, I think, are starting to rebound the ball a little bit better, which hopefully continues against the Pacers, because the Pacers are definitely going to be able to to rebound the ball a lot better than the Heat did, and they're going to obviously have better offense than the Heat
Yeah.
did. Just a better team. I mean, honestly, when you want to compare the Heat to what everybody else is in the playoffs, the Heat were just a cone in the road that you just had to move
Mhm.
to get to the playoffs. For us now, the playoffs really do start. And
Yeah.
so that's where it's going to go. So I think the first game is Saturday. I don't think they have times
Sunday.
yet. Yeah, it's
Uh,
one of
I
their games this
I
week.
think it's Sunday at 7
Okay.
for game 1.
As long as we can see it and it's not blocked, I'll be good. But I swear to
Yeah.
God, if it's blocked like game 2, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna lose my shit too.
but yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun series. It's gonna be a much more fun matchup to watch. And listen, you take care of business here. I think Detroit just beat the Knicks last night, so they're going to game 6 this weekend. So Boston won last night against the Magic, barely, but they did. Um, and you're gonna probably have a Boston versus Knicks series, and obviously the winner is probably going to be Boston, and that's going to determine if the Cavs do advance, that they'll play them. And hey, man, if they get to the finals, I mean, it's going to be hard for teams and really media to not pick the Cavs if they're going to
Yeah.
continue to play this way. So I'm excited. I fucking
Me
love
too.
this team. And it comes at a really good time because the Guardians are playing some off and on ball. They won last night. You were there.
Yeah, until
So
11:45. They
stupid rain delay. What a dumb thing they did.
Hey, all
My,
worth it for a Manzo bomb for a game winner.
exactly. But yeah, man, that's pretty much gonna do it for me.
um,
Um,
I do have
oh yeah, that's right.
this is Guardians. Before I get into our sponsor, I do have a little bit of Guardians just real quick. It's all the injury updates for some of the players.
Okay.
Just to get some Guardians in here. So for Shane Bieber, he's progressed through his return to throwing program at the Arizona Academy as he recovers from a right ulnar collateral ligament reconstruction.
UCL for
Um,
short.
yeah. Shane has progressed through his bullpens and will now begin pitching in live batting practice sessions in early May. So he's making a recovery and he'll start batting practice in May, throwing batting practice in May. Slade Ciccone, uh, he will be throwing. He's been throwing live BPs, and he will actually have a rehab assignment with Columbus and over the weekend. So he is basically getting ready to come back and be part of the Guardians bullpen. Chase DeLauder, um, he is responding well to his rehab and has returned to full baseball activities without any setbacks. He will continue his rehab program and will begin game activity in the next couple weeks. So Chase Lauder will be back here in the next couple weeks. David Fry, again another UCL injury, has progressed back into hitting activity with no setbacks and will begin game progression in early May. And then I think there was there's a couple here. John Means, the starting pitcher we got in the offseason, has progressed to throwing out to 120 feet and is projected to initiate throwing bullpens mid-May. So he's getting close to returning. Stefan has been progressing at the Arizona Academy with his UCL ligament injury and bone spur removal. He has progressed through his bullpen progressions and is expected to begin live batting practice in early May. And Andrew Walters had elbow inflammation in mid-April. He was evaluated in Columbus, and he's taken a short time off from throwing, but he's currently working through a return to a throw program and is progressing well. He is returned to game activity over the next 10 days. So, and Eric Sobrowski was a part of our bullpen too. Also had an injection, and he is expected to resume mound activity in the upcoming week as well.
Sweet.
So a lot of guys coming back here in May and getting ready to throw live BPs, and David Fry's continuing his hitting progressions, and he should be everyone. It sounds like everyone should be back within the summer. Is what it sounds like. So as long as we can maintain, staying close behind Detroit, where we are right now, and winning ball games, this team will be fine.
Right.
So we're getting. It seems like we're getting guys like Saccone back here in the next couple of days, or next few days, or next week or so, because he's starting his rehab assignment, and things looking to be going upwards. But with that, it's time for this.
First sponsor.
The first sponsor
of the stream officially.
Yeah, first sponsor. Shout out to our boys at Effortless Wins. They're two guys I know from college. Great guys. I played soccer with one of them, and the other one was his good buddy and his best friend. So they started like a little betting company called Effortless Wins. They offer sports betting advice. If you talk to them, they will help you set up plays and parlays and whatnot to help boost your wins. Obviously, we'll link their social media in the links below. But yeah, go and talk to them. These are fantastic dudes who definitely know what they're doing. And I tell you what, I followed a couple of their plays over the last week or so, and I've been doing pretty well.
Good.
So
awesome.
They definitely know what they're doing. They definitely help you out, and they offer different programs and whatnot. So I would definitely talk to Tony and Greg and see what's up. So shout out to them for sponsoring us.
Yes. Shout out to Effortless Wins. Definitely go check them out, guys. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for us, Drew. I don't know if you really got anything else, but
no,
I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
That's going to do it for us today.
All right, guys. Well, we will see y'all next week with some more Cavs talk and some more Guardians talk. And we'll see if there's any more Browns news that comes about. But for now, probably just going to be Cavs and Guards for a little bit. So,
yeah.
With that being said, we'll see you guys next week.